I'm Alice Edgeley. I came to St Kilda in 2022 and then I've been living here ever since. My dad used to work in St Kilda. He's an architectural illustrator and I think he worked on Fitzroy Street for, I'm not sure if it was Denton, Corker, Marshall. We used to come down after work sometimes and meet him, I guess, and go to the beach and have dinner on the beach. Yes, it seemed really exotic and very different from like Glen Iris, Burwood, where I grew up. My mum could sew. My great-grandmother was a tailor and my granny could sew. My mum made our clothes, not all the time, but often when I was little we made stuff. So she must have taught me. Yeah, I just loved it. I loved it. There was a Spotlight down the road from us for a while and I would go down there and buy, you know, like 10 centimetres worth of rickrack to put on a tiny little dress that I'd made. I made the dolls, like I made cloth dolls and I made outfits for them. I made paper dolls and I made extensive outfits for the paper dolls. And I drew, I just did designs, so from about the age of 9. I was doing a fashion-related VCE at Box Hill, and I wasn't super organised. I think I hadn't got a work experience place. I think my mum was like, why don't you try Rose Chong Costumes? So I went to do work experience with Rose, and Rose and I remember it differently. She says, and on your last day you just said, I don't think I'm going to go back to school. And then I just stayed, but I remember her offering me an apprenticeship. And my mum remembers it being quite, you know, it's a big thing I'd only done a quarter of a year of year 11. And my dad was apparently away, and so she went to speak to, you know, some of her friends and work out whether I should take this apprenticeship. So then I got an apprenticeship and went to work for Rose. So from working at Rose's, I kind of worked there on and off. It was always a bit of like, I love costume, sort of, but I really love fashion, mainly because I prefer women's clothes. I'm not interested in men's clothes at all. It was a bit kind of like, should I do fashion or costume, fashion, costume? And costume was the kind of go and work in film was the way. So I did a bit of film work. I worked with Cappy Island on a film called The Home Song Stories, which was an amazing film. It won a costume award. Cappy won the costume award. So I did that film, and then I just thought, this isn't for me. I'm not enjoying film work. So I'm gonna have to do something to do with fashion. I have to really go for it, because I think I was turning 27 and I just thought, there was lots of interesting fashion designers coming out in London at the time. So I wrote a little list. I worked on that film, made some money, moved to London, and I just went door knocking. Like, I was really onto it. And I sent out emails. I sent my resume and then I went to check whether they'd got them. So I knocked on Christopher's door and got a job working for him. It was exactly what I wanted to do. It was really, really intense fashion, so 2 London Fashion Weeks a year. He was also working for Versus. Donatella Versace revived the Versus label, which is like mini Versace. And Christopher was designing there part of the time. Then he started doing, I think, resort wear. So there was lots and lots of long days. And it was a very small studio when I started, so there was maybe just 4 or 5 of us working in a tiny studio, plus Christopher and Tammy, his sister. And I lived in East London, and I loved it. I moved back to Melbourne. I knew I wanted to design my own clothes since I was about 9. So by that time I was 30, so it was quite a long time of working for other people. And I had hooked up with William, and he was very encouraging, and he was like, just open a shop, just start, you know, I wanted to start my own label. He's like, just open a shop, just start the label. I got a shop lease through Rose Chong, who was actually the person who gave me my first job when I was 16. So that was like a nice coming kind of full circle. I was going to rent the shop off her, so I got the shop and then I started the label and did it for 13 years. I'm actually back working in the same workroom that I learnt to sew in at the moment. So when I shut my shop, Rose said that I could put my sewing machines back up there. One of the sewing machines that I use all the time, my straight stitch, is actually the one I learnt to sew on when I was 16, when I worked for her. So I moved back and I moved into William's shop. He had a shop on Gertrude Street and he'd had it for maybe 7 years when I moved in with him, and then we lived there for another 7 years. Then we moved briefly to the city. We needed a bath and we needed some trees, and we didn't really want to live in one of those new apartments that they're built in anywhere. And so it was kind of in the pandemic, so we looked, and there was lots of rental properties available then because no one wanted to move, I guess, or people were moving out of town. And so we looked at some in South Yarra, and then we found this. This was the first place we looked at, and it was such a beautiful building. It's a beautiful Art Deco building. It was such an adventure because I hadn't lived here before. I had actually, only come to St Kilda for things like to go to a gig or for someone's birthday. There's just like little romantic glimpses of interesting buildings that I'd visited and cool gigs that I'd gone to. Because there's so little crossover between North and South Side, I think I'd actually visited maybe St Kilda 20 times or 30 times, which is quite crazy. It was great to explore the whole neighbourhood, and I'm still exploring it. I love it. I love walking around all the streets, finding little routes down side streets, just checking out all the buildings. I love the Art Deco buildings. It seems very like Raymond Chandler to me. I feel like I'm in some weird, I'm either in some like weird Hollywood noir film or I'm in like an Agatha Christie, and both of those really appeal to me. And I actually I forgot that it was by the sea. That was it was a really nice bonus. So we got the sea and a bath and some greenery because we live right on the Botanic Gardens here. Just before the pandemic, I formed a band with 3 other women, and we started playing and we were going to have a gig, and then the pandemic came. I think it was like on that, we were going to launch in March or April at the Tote, and then that got scuppered. And then we were all in lockdown, obviously. We managed to record a single, and then as we were slowly opening up, we got a couple of gigs. They were really good gigs for a band starting, and it was very exciting and very intimidating because I was learning to play the drums, and I hadn't played them before I had joined the band. Davey Lane was launching his new album at the SB in the Gershwin Room, which is a really iconic room for me. I remember seeing Spank Rock play there, and Coco Rosie, big international acts. So it was very, we felt like we were in Spinal Tap. We were really dressed up. It was really fun. And really, it was terrifying, but it was great. It was, quite thrilling. I also love the op shop on Grey Street, the Sacred Heart op shop. And walking up there, it reminds me, there used to be really cool shops up there, like The Bitch is back. Amazing furniture, like vintage furniture shops. It just feels like it's got very much gentrified since then. It felt like there used to be lots of cute, like little quirky independent shops everywhere, and now it feels like there's none, like there's hardly any. They're very rare. And there was also on Grey Street was where I was sent as a teenager to get my first like cool haircut at a place that was called Gorgeous on Grey Street, and they were super kind of like glam rock because it was the 90s. It was very you know, like straight kind of layers. I wanted a bogan haircut, like I said. I want a bogan haircut. I wanted like a shaggy 70s, a shag with a big thick fringe. And I remember Kazzy just did it. She did it so quickly. She chopped my hair, styled it. It felt like it took 20 minutes. And all of a sudden I had this amazing, cool hairdo. It was cool, and it was a really fun outing to St Kilda. I remember really enjoying it. And it was like going to a different city. We used to go to the Prince, the band room up there. I saw Roland S. Howard up there when I was a teenager, and that is like a St Kilda memory. It has a really kind of cool history, doesn't it? It has like a kind of decadent, it's a bit romantic and a bit old Hollywood, kind of a bit like faded glamour, I feel like. And there's still lots of interesting odd people around, which I really like. It makes me feel at home.